The stories are familiar. Wild elephants stumble across the remains of their own kind, pausing to linger over the bones of the dead. When we see an animal standing quietly over a carcass, our instinct is to project our own experience onto the scene. We assume we are witnessing grief. But behavioral biology operates under a strict boundary. We cannot ask an animal what it is feeling. Without language, drawing conclusions from a quiet posture is an assumption. Scientists must look strictly at the data. To understand the depth of an elephant's mind, we have to look past our own projections and examine the verifiable field evidence of what they actually do when a peer falls. Evidence of these interactions comes from places like Kenya's Samburu National Reserve, where researchers have tracked individual elephant families daily for decades. In 2003, they were monitoring Eleanor, a 55-year-old matriarch who led a family unit known as the First Ladies. Eleanor's final days provided a rare, continuous observation window into how surrounding herds react to a dying and deceased peer over the course of a week. Her death allows us to reconstruct the timeline of an elephant's interaction with the dead, minute by minute. On the evening of October 10th, Eleanor was failing. She was suffering from abrasions, a broken tusk, and a swollen trunk that she dragged along the ground before finally collapsing into the dirt. 2 minutes later, an elephant named Grace rapidly approached. Grace was the matriarch of an entirely different family unit, yet she showed immediate signs of stress, including secreting fluid from the glands behind her eyes. Grace used her own tusks and body weight to successfully leverage Eleanor back onto her feet, but Eleanor's weakness caused her to collapse a second time. Her back legs buckled, despite Grace repeatedly nudging and pushing her. As the rest of Grace's family unit moved on to find food and water, Grace stayed by Eleanor's side in the dark for at least another hour. Grace was not a relative, yet she provided physical assistance to a distressed individual at the expense of her own feeding and travel time. Eleanor died the next morning. This map plots the GPS radio collar locations of 3 elephants over the following week, showing movements relative to the death site. Over 7 days, multiple distinct family units made repeated, deliberate visits to the carcass, traveling kilometers out of their paths to reach the site. The visiting elephants displayed methodical behaviors. An unrelated female named Maui approached the body, hovered her foot over it, and pulled at the carcass with her trunk. The attraction was powerful enough to cause conflict. At one point, a completely unrelated family pushed Eleanor's own surviving relatives away, taking control of the area just to investigate the body themselves. The data suggests that an elephant's death triggers a population-wide curiosity that can temporarily override normal social hierarchies. While field observations prove the behavior exists, researchers used controlled experiments to isolate exactly what the elephants are reacting to. In Amboseli, scientists presented wild elephants with an array of objects, including wood, the bones of other large herbivores, and elephant skulls and ivory. The elephants showed a specific interest in the remains of their own species, spending significantly more time exploring the skulls than any other object. But the elephants did not show a stronger preference for the bones of their own relatives. They were equally interested in the remains of strangers. Elephants live in societies where groups constantly divide and merge over vast distances. Examining a carcass is a pragmatic way to update information about their social landscape, identifying which individuals are no longer part of the population. When we look at the data together, a clear pattern emerges. These interactions are not standardized rituals. Responses vary by individual. Some stand guard for hours, while others, like an elephant named Sage, simply extend a trunk to sniff the body for 3 minutes and walk away. This is why applying the word grief is scientifically difficult. We can log the minutes they spend tasting the dirt or touching a bone, but we cannot objectively prove an internal emotional state. Labeling these interactions as funerals risks oversimplifying a complex biological process by forcing it into a human framework. The movement data shows that a single death creates a measurable disruption in the behavior of the surrounding herds. Entire herds will veer from their established paths and travel for miles specifically to reach and inspect a carcass. We still don't know what it feels like to be an elephant standing over those bones, or the exact meaning they assign to the dead. But the fact that they stop to investigate, strangers and relatives alike, reveals a social awareness that extends beyond the living. They recognize their peers as individuals, and they continue to track that identity even after the social bond has been severed by death.